Hello dear viewers, welcome to Geonodes daily series where we see how fast can we make something cool in geometry nodes. Yesterday we created the sine function, and today we will see a practical example how you can build this scene that you see here. So apart from seeing a practical example for the sine function other than the S curve, we get to do a lot of cool stuff. As you will see in the card in the left, we will see how we can sculpt shapes to get that skateboard, how we can do the wall and all the other stuff that you see in the demo. It's gonna be so cool. So I can't wait to start, but before I do, I want to give you a big thank you for supporting this channel. To all of you that are subscribing, commenting, liking the videos, or purchasing these project files from Gumroad, thank you very much for that. So you will be able to get this project also from the Gumroad by looking at the link in the description. So let's get started with the first point. Let's build the slope that you saw in the demo. And like I said, we will use the sine function. So let's do an append. And I'm going to go to this file. This is the file, node tree, sine function. And now if we go to group, we get this. So let me get rid of the starting node, and if we look at this for the way it begins, it's kind of looking like this. So let me do something like that, and we want to use in and out, something like this, and we will do a bit of playing with that. It doesn't look like the slope in our demo yet. So first thing, I want to turn this into a mesh. So let's do curve to mesh, plug this one here. And for the profile, I'm going to do a line. So let's add this line here. And we have to change the direction of this line. So let's put this one to 0. And if we play with the X, now we see our slope appearing. And I want to be centered on the origin, so let's do minus 0.5 and 0.5. So now we get this, and of course we will want to add a solidify modifier. So let's do that. I'm gonna give this a little bit of thickness. Let me save. Okay, leave it like this, and of course I want to add a bevel modifier to give it some smoothness. One segment will be enough, and we can play with this value to get something that looks quite nice. Of course, something else, harden normals. Then we have to go here to the normals, activate the auto smooth, and then we get this nice result that we see here. Going back to our geometry nodes tree, this is not going to be needed for now. We can see the result, and it's kind of not exactly looking the way we wanted. It's first of all, it's too steep, this slope, so let's fix that. I'm gonna add a transform node, plug it here, and now we can play with this. So let's say I'm gonna do something like this, and immediately we get a little bit more of a slopey slope. I'm gonna also lift it up, so let's do a round value, something like this, and now we get this. It's still not looking like the one in the demo, because we want to add a bump somewhere on the road. How can we do this? Well, this is the cool part. Let's duplicate this node. I'm gonna push this one here, and I'm gonna use this one to affect the amplitude for in and out that are controlling this these values. So how can we do this? I'm gonna do a vector, separate xyz, take these points from here that are composing this slope. This slope that I can then leave it for the, let's say, ease in. It's gonna look something like that. If we want to see it, it's gonna look like this. Okay, and now we are going to use the z position of these points to drive the in and out of this node that we have here. So let's add in utilities, map range, plug this one here, and I'm gonna switch this one to smoother step, and the input is 0 to 1. It's cool, but I want to play with the output a little bit. So let me do something like let's make 1.7 to make it round, and then I'm gonna play with the maximum value, kind of like a lot. And now I'm getting back this slope here. Let me do not that much, something less, maybe a little bit more, something like this. And then I want to duplicate this node, plug it here, and change some of the settings. We already see the bump coming here. So 0 to 1 input, it's okay. And for the output, let's play a little bit with this. Let's do minus 1.57, just to make it nice. And we see this bump here. And now we can play with this value to control where this bump is going. As you can see, things are starting to move. Let's make around 300. And now we get this nice slope. So this is a pretty cool trick, how you can combine this stuff to get the result that you want. So now that we did this, I want to add the pillar that we had at the end. So let me do this. I'm gonna take this one out of the frame. I want to add a join geometry node so I can add more stuff here. So let me duplicate this frame, and I'm gonna start with this by using a cube. So let's do a cube, and I'm gonna plug it here to use it here. A few things that I want to do with this cube. I don't want it to be affected by the solidify or the bevel. So in order to achieve this, I'm gonna go to this node, geometry to instance, and turn this setup into an instance. I also want to shade it smooth, so let's do this and plug it here and move this a little bit so we have a little bit of room to work with. And once I did this, I kind of want to add a little bit of geometry to this shape. Let's start by using 64. We will play with this more. So now we have this cube. I kind of want to give it a shape like this, something like this, to make it more like a hourglass shape. And in order to achieve this effect, we increase the resolution here, and we want to do something else. We want to add a geometry set position so we can manipulate the points. And now I want to control the position of the points. So let's start by breaking it out. separate, and then of course we want to do a combine. So let's connect this here, and between these two nodes we can do our thing. So our cube is 111 meter. That's good. We know where the points are. We will do a little bit of math. I'm gonna take a math node, switch this one to multiply, and I want to use the x position and multiply it by the z position, and then plug the result into the x, and we get this. And then I want to do something similar to this, but this time I want to do it using the y position, and of course plug this into the y position here. And now we get this kind of effect. Let's control this a little bit. So let me do this and make sure to plug all these nodes to this frame. In order to control this, I'm gonna use a color ramp. Let's see how we can use that color ramp to play with values. We will use z for both of these. So let's plug the z here and the output of this color ramp here instead of that z, and plug this one here instead of that z. Excellent. And now we get this. Everything starts at 0 because we have an interval from, if we look at this and we mute this node, we start on negative side of the z. So because we want a symmetric thing going on, we can use a little bit of math again and switch this one to absolute. So now minus 0.5 it will become 0.5, and of course everything in between until 0 will lose the negative part, and we get our hourglass back. And now we can play a little bit with these values that you see here. So first of all, I don't want such an extreme effect. I want something like let's put a 0.7 here, and then I want to add a little bit of values. So let's move this one something like this, and of course I want to play a little bit with the value. So let's do something like, let's do 0.85. Yeah, 0.85, it's gonna be nice. And then let's do another point, but this point I want it to be closer to 0 to 9. So let's say something like this. Let's make it round, something like this. And as a position, yeah, now we are controlling the ends. So let's do something like this. Okay, and then I want to add another node, but this time this one I want to be 100% and bring it close to this one, so we get this a little shaping that you see here. Okay, so now it's kind of what I wanted. It's kind of looking good. Let's activate this slope, see it from the front, and I want to push this one to the end, basically. So let me add a transform node here, plug it here, and let's move this one. It was like 11, something like this. I wanted it to start somewhere like here, close to the end of this one. So let me do something like this. Let's see how it goes. And of course I want to push this one up, and I want to now stretch it a little bit. So let's do 1.5 on the Z, and of course I want to move it a little bit down now, something like this. And I want to make it less fat here on the Z, so let's do something like this. Yeah, it's starting to look like the column that I wanted to have. Let's do something like, it's now just about tweaking the values to get exactly what we want. So let's say something like 22 maybe, 23, 4, 45, something like this. Actually, I think it's 40. Yeah, maybe something like this. It's close enough. You can even go a little bit, like let's say 51, something like this. And of course, I'm gonna push it a little bit up to be in line. So now we have this slope here. It's just about tweaking. I'm gonna just move on from this. I want to add something to the end of this slope. So I'm gonna start again with the cube. This one we can also play a little bit with the resolution to get better results. Let's see, let's double this on the X, and on the Z, the height, kind of want to have a more definition, and now it looks even better, something like this. And I want to add a little bit of a slope at the end here. So let's do that. I'm gonna do another cube, and of course I'm gonna plug it here. Shift D for this frame, plug this one into the frame. And for the resolution, let's do something like 32. And then I'm gonna play a little bit with the values because this is obviously too thick. So let's do like a thickening, something like this. And I want to make it a little bit inside of this. And in order to position it, I'm gonna use a set position, and of course move it till it fits to our setup, something like, maybe something like this. And I also want it a little bit down. Maybe something like this. It's just tweaking from here. So let's do this instancing thing, so it's not affected by the bevel and solidify modifier. And we basically have our slope. Now let's move on to the skateboard. I want to do the plate of this. So let me simply mute this for now and add another joint geometry. and we will do our skateboard plate here. So let's think about this. What should we start the sculpting with? I'm gonna start with a cylinder. So let's add a cylinder, plug it here, and of course I want a little bit of resolution. So let's see. If I put 64, for example, in all of them, I have kind of a lot of resolution here for the side that I don't really need. So let's do something like this. And of course, the depth will control just how big this one is. So let's do something like this, because our skateboard should be fairly thin. And let's see. Basically want to do to transform on this. First I want, let's check out from the top. I kind of want to give it a shape something like this. So I want to sculpt the width, and also as we look at this, I want to give it a little bit of bowing, something like this. So let's start with the first thing. Let's control the width of this. I'm going to use again a set position that will allow us to play with every point on the width. And of course, I'm going to need the position input. So basically, we can take these nodes and bring it here. And also I want to do the frame thing, so we see better what's going on here. So now we can combine this, plug this one into the position, and we have a room to play. So I want to first affect the width of this, like I said. So how I'm going to do this? Well, a little bit of math. First of all, I want to get rid of the fact that we are on the negative side on the axis. We have minus and minus on the x and y axis. So we will use this absolute that will mirror the effect on positive and negative values. So let's take the x-axis from here, and this result I want to multiply with the y-axis. So let's do this, and then I'm going to plug the result into the y-axis here, because I want to fin it on that axis, as you see here. And we get this bow tie that it's a little bit not what we want. So how can we fix this? Well, we can use a map range, because color ramp is good when you want to modify multiple points, but a map range is good when you want to basically shape a range, and this is what we want to do here. So let's do a map range, plug it here, and now we can play with these things. So let's do a smoother step, and we can play with in and out. I don't want any point to be zero. I kind of want it to be of soft width, like here. And I don't want 1 at the end. I want something like, let's say 0.6, something like this. And now we can adjust this fall off here by playing with the input. So let's do like 1.5. And now we get this shape that it's pretty close to what we wanted. Now let's do the bending part. So I want to play with the z value. And in order to do that, I want to push everything up. So I want to add to this value. And Again, I want to make sure that I'm not affecting things in a weird way, because we have negative values. So we will do again the absolute thing. And now we want to play again with the color ramp, because I want to affect more than one point. So let's see. First point, do I want to have a absolute 0? Yes. But then I want to make sure that nothing goes all the way to 1. I actually want to bend it just a little bit. And of course, I want to add something in between. And I want this point to be 0. And I want to control this. Let me switch to B-spline to get something smoother. And then I can just play with these values. And this output, I want it to be here. And for the input, I want to use the Z to add this together. Something like this. So to the Z value, we add these modified values that we played with here. So let me see. I just want to get the bending. But nothing is happening, because I'm adding to the Z value that it's constant, but we want to add something from the X or Y. So let's use X, and now we get the bending. And because of this absolute, we get the bending on both sides. Otherwise, we would not get, because the color ramp is between 0 and 1. But this way we get a mirrored effect. So now we can control the bending like this with these values. So let me do something. Something like this. And we get our bended board, basically. So let's move to the next point and do the wheel. And for the wheels, I want to have the wheel in itself, and I want to have a wheel support. And let's add the wheel support first. And before adding the wheel support, of course, something else I want to do here. It's adding this geometry to instance. So we get rid of the modifiers, and also I want to do the smoothing, set shade smooth, something like this. Excellent. So this is our output. Good. I'm gonna duplicate this node, plug it here, and do a different frame for this one, and then duplicate this frame, because we will do the wheel support. And I'm gonna start with the cylinder. So Alt P and plug it into this frame, and then plug this one here. Okay, let's mute this one so we see what we get here. For this cylinder, for the resolution, I'm gonna do something like this. And for the size, I kind of want to have something else. Let's do 0.5. This should be a lot thinner. Now it's kind of looking like a rod that will support the wheels. So we'll have this, and on top of that we'll have a wheel, and then we are going to duplicate the setup to have 2 round of wheels. And of course we will have an element to connect the things with the plank. So now that we did this, let's do the sculpting of this shape. And for that, I'm going to use again set position. And of course, I kind of want to replicate this setup. Okay, so Control C, Control V, take it from here, plug it into this frame, and then plugging the output here, and this one goes also into the frame, and we can push this one like this, and we can modify this this setup, because what I want to do with this, it's make these ones thinner at the end but thicker on the middle, so the wheels will come on this thinner and edges. So in order to do this, again we will have to play with these values. Let me reset the color ramp and get rid of this. Actually, let's turn this on to a multiply, and I want to multiply the X value with this color ramp, and then do the same thing for the Y. So let's do that, and I'm gonna plug this into the X and this into the Y, and the Z we will leave it alone. So we start to see something happening here, but not quite what we want, because we have to play with this color ramp now. So let's do just that. First of all, I want to invert it, so having the thick one at the end, and the zero value is not gonna be 0, it's gonna be something like, let's say 0.7, something like this. And then I want to duplicate this one and also give it a 0.7 to restrict this frame, restrict this range here. And then we will do the actual bending here, and for this we kind of have to push the values, let's say like 45, something like this. I'm gonna switch this one to B-spline to get smoother angles, and of course I want to change this value because I want to use not a constant, because now we have a constant on the X and Y, and our moving value, shifting value is on the Z. So let's plug this one here, and we see things happening here. Without the color ramp we get this, but with the color ramp we have this that is controlling the ends of it. So this one, it's something you can use to build all kind of shapes, but we want to leave it like this, and we want to basically push everything into this range. So let me do something like this. This is controlling the width of the ends, as you can see, and I want to have something smooth, so maybe something like this, and this one should be pretty close. As you see what's happening, as we move this one closer, we basically get the support for the wheels. So let me do something like this, and maybe something like this. Let's leave it like this for now. It's looking good. I want to also add something else here. I want to add a connector for this to the plate, and in order to see how things are going, let me activate the plate, and now we see where we want to move things around. Let's do a transform, plug it here, and let's first rotate this one, and now we see things are where we want them. So let's do front and the Z so we can see things around, and push this one a little bit down. let's do minus 0.1, something like this. And we will fix this later on, the positioning, because we will duplicate it, but for now it's okay. I want to build a connector, something that connect these rods to the plate. So for this I'm gonna use a cone, and this cone will be connected here. So let's do a geometry, join geometry, plug this one here and plug the cone here, and now we get something huge like this, and that's not what we want. So in order to make things smoother, let's add this one, some more geometry, and then I want the radius at the top to be something. I don't want it to be completely pointy, and then we can decrease this thickness quite a bit. So let's do 0.03 because this stuff is really small, and the depth, of course, it's not gonna be that. It's kind of have to be a lot less. So let's do something like this. And once we have this, we can do a transform for this. Let's reset this node by backspace on it. And now we can push it down to align it with our geometry. Let me switch to Z in the grid, the wireframe view again. I want to reverse this, so to have the thicker part on the top. So let's do this, and then we can just align things properly. This is 0. So let's say something like this. It's gonna look nice. Okay, so now we have this this support here. We can play with the shape in this node. We don't have to do anything too fancy with another setup. We're just gonna play with these values. I'm gonna play a little bit and get something like this. That it's looking pretty nice. So we kind of finish this part. I want to do the wheel now, and let's deal with that. We will start with a cylinder. So let me do a cylinder here. So mesh cylinder. Of course, we will need to plug it somewhere. So let's plug it to this setup. We have this one here. Let's duplicate it, and we will plug this one here. And we duplicate it because we will need two of these. But for now, let's adjust some settings here. This is, of course, way too big. We kind of have to make it a lot smaller. So let's do something like this. And now we get this cylinder here. I kind of want one part to be a little bit out of sync, something like this. Let's fix the resolution for this one. Quickly, let me turn off the plate so we can see what exactly we are doing here. Okay, let's add some resolution to this, and of course the fill segments will control also the top to get a little bit more smooth. And now, in order to sculpt this shape, we want to do again a setup similar to this one. So Shift D, Alt P to remove the frame, G and put it into this frame. So now we can plug this one here and plug this one here. And let's play with the shape to get what we want. And what exactly do we want? I want this shape to be have an indent here, something like this, to create the illusion that the rod is going through the wheel. So this is what I want to do here. And in order to do this, I have the position and I want to calculate the length of that. So I'm taking the position here and switch this one to length. And this is going to give me a gradient, a radial gradient that I can use to control stuff, because I don't need this node. I'm gonna leave the X and Y alone, and I'm just gonna affect the Z, this part. So I want to push some things inside based on a gradient that it's the circumference of this stuff here. So let me plug this one here into the Z, and I want to use the Z to multiply by this gradient here. And now let's reset this color ramp, and we get something like this. It's not exactly what we want. Let's see what exactly we want. We have a 0 and we have a 1, and we want something in between with a very small value, something like this maybe. And I want to push everything really close together. And you see what's going on? We get this shape now if we play with these values. So let me push this one really close to each other, and now the end controls just what we have on the border, something like this, and this one controls just how smooth the end is. So this is what we want to do, something like this. It's gonna give us basically the shape that we want. And now that we did this, of course we have to align things and duplicate things to get two wheels. So at the end here, I'm gonna do a geometry transform, and of course we want to rotate this on the x-axis to have this, and we want to position it nicely towards the end of our setup. So let's do minus 0.2, something like this, maybe a little bit more, we will see. And we want to push it down to align with this setup. So let's do minus 0.1, something like this. And it's kind of looking pretty close to what I wanted. We can, if we want to make this one closer, we can do something like push it something more like this, and do something like this. And once we have this, we can duplicate this stuff. So let's do Control Shift D, and then we will do a geometry, join geometry, and plug this one here. And now we have two wheels, and the second one we will put exactly on the opposite end by removing this one, and we have our setup for the wheels. Now what's left to do is to, of course, duplicate this entire thing to have 2 rounds of wheels, and let's do that now. I'm gonna bring back the plate so we can see what's going on here. Move things a little bit here, and we have this entire setup here that we kind of want to replicate. With the support and everything. So we basically want to duplicate this one here. And the way we will do this is we will add a curve line that will have 2 points, of course. And then we will do instance on points. And this will be the points. And this will be our instance that we will plug here. And now we have this entire setup duplicated because this is our plank here. So actually I think we want to do it here. So let's do this is the point, this is what we want to replicate, and this will come here. Excellent. Of course, this is not the axis that we want. It's not going where we want it. We want it on another axis. We want it on the X. So let's move the wheels where we want them to be. Something like minus point. Let's see. Something like this. And 0.55 here. And once we did this, we can go back and adjust this part here that it's not exactly fitting with the profile. So let's find that one. It's this one here. So we can kind of Control C. We want to find the setup for this one. Okay. And now we can push this one a little bit like this. And now things are fixed. We have our skateboard nice, prepared and working. So it's time to do the animation of this skateboard based on the slope. So let's see. Right now we have this. So let's position things around nicely. Okay. So here is our skateboard. We did this stuff to it here. So let me leave this one here. This is our skateboard. Let's first align it nicely to what we have here. I want to push it up. So it's gonna be on top of our slope. Maybe something like this. It's again just about tweaking. Let's not do this. Of course, it's too big. Let's make it like smaller. So it will make more sense in this context. And of course, now we have to play again with these values. So let's see, 0.06 maybe, 61. Let's try 63, 65, and we'll leave it like that. Okay, so now we have the skateboard here, and we want to make it follow the slope. So let's duplicate this node here. I'm gonna reset this node, and in order to make it follow the spline, we kind of need a sample curve node, and we want to plug this where our slope originated. So this is our slope. We turn it at some point into a mesh here. So let me take this node, and before turning it into a mesh, this slope here, we want to intercept it before turning it into a mesh. So now I have access to the data from that one. So let's bring it here. And now we can control the position of this by using this factor. But as we play with this, we kind of see something happening, especially when we are here. It's kind of not following the rotation of the slope. So let's fix that. Let's do an align Euler to vector. And using the tangent as a vector, let's control the rotation of this thing. And immediately we see things aligning really nicely to our slope. So now this value will control the positioning on the slope. So we can animate this value, and I did something interesting here with this. I made this start fast and then end up slow. So how can we do this? We first need the scene time to get the frame from here, and then I did something with this. Of course, it's math. I'm gonna do first. I want to control the cycle length. So I want this to have a certain length, the animation, and then go back. So the modulo and everything else. So let's plug this one here into this this node here. And now if the animation plays, nothing happens because we have this modulo of 1. Let's make it like this, and again it's not going to happen because everything happens in one frame. So we need to do a little bit of math here. We want to control the speed, of course. So in order to control the speed, I want to do a division of this frame. So let's plug this one here, and then we need a value here. So let's do like 20 for now. And now we play with this, we see that in 20 frames we get this. The animation. But first of all, I want this to be the other way around, to start on the top. So let's fix that. I'm gonna switch this one to divide, plug this one here, and do a division like this. And now if we start at 1, we will be on the top. And if we play the animation, we see this going on like this. So now this division is going to control just how many frames the animation lasts. So let's do like 120 and start from here and play the animation, and we will see things happening. After a while, things go down, and this is going slower and slower and slower based on this value, because we basically invert it here by dividing with some value, and this will control just how far we can go with this one, basically. So basically we have a control for the cycle length and cycle speed, and let's use this. I'm gonna do multiply and take this value and put it here. We already have it. So I'm gonna plug this one here and then this one here. And now we have a control for the speed here and an amplitude. So let's put this one, let's say to 5. And now this will be our speed here. Something like this. So now we can play with this and have our animation, basically. Something else that I want to show you is how you can parent a camera to this entire setup. How can you make a camera follow this skateboard that you have here, and that will require another geometry node setup to get a vert in the location of this skateboard. So after we did this entire thing, this entire setup, we have this output here that I kind of want to expose here before turning it into a instance and all that thing. So I want to expose this one here. So now I have access to the geometry. I'm using here instance, but I'm exposing here the geometry. And I'm also going to expose the instanced geometry here. So now we will need two things. We will need a camera. So let's add a camera, and we will need another geometry to put a geometry node tree on it. And I'm gonna bring in this one, and I'm also going to add this setup as it is here. And we don't need this thing, we just need these instances. So let's plug this one here, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think there is a bug. This is the easy method, this is the workaround. When I did this first time, it was not working, so I'm gonna try now to see if it's working. A few geometry, a few updates later. So let's turn this instance into points. So basically now we have a vert here into this geometry, this point. So as the animation goes, I should have a point that it's moving, but it's not. It's not exactly working. But if we do it like this, so let's do it like this. So let's say instance, we have here a geometry, and say geometry to instance, and then instance to points, and plug it here, and we play with this. Now we have an instance and nothing moving, because we kind of have to get rid of some of the geometry here. We need to delete some geometry. So let's do geometry, delete geometry, and I want to delete everything that is not moving. So let me just do that. I'm gonna take the input position, and when I do utilities, compare, switch this one to vector, take the position element wise and switch to equal. So everything that is equal to 0, I want to plug here. We are talking the origin of the geometry. And now we'll have to fix a few things here. First of all, we care only about, we have mesh and instances, and we only care about instance because we know our skateboard is an instance, so we can use these separate components, take this geometry and use only the instances. So now here we will have instances, and now that we have instances, let's see, going back to our setup here, let's see what output do we have here. Everything gets turned into mesh and instances, and we have the geometry coming from here. It's our slope, and then mixed with that we have these instances, and at the end, let's see, we have 3 instances here. So going back here and looking at our setup, we get 3 instances here. This, we don't need this node. Now we have 3 instances, and we want to delete based on a mask. We don't need these nodes either. So delete the geometry, point it's okay, and our mask should be this one. From these instances, we know that the only thing that is above 0 is this skateboard. These ones are not. So by doing this mask, we should be able to get rid of some of the stuff here. So now that we have these instances here, and in order to make this one correct, we have to turn them into points. And now when we look, we have nothing left. Because we have here 3 points, and we build this mask, and then we are left with nothing here. And the reason for that is, if we go back to our setup here, this skateboard, it's one of the instances, and it has the position 0 because we turn it into instance after we did this transform. If we take this transform from here and we plug it before we started to follow the spline, we will move the position here, as you can see, and now we will not have it at 0 at any point. So going back to our setup here, and let me find my node tree that is here. Now if we look at this setup, we have our point, and if we play a little bit with the animation, you see our point is moving with the geometry. So now we have to turn this point into a vector, into a vertex, because this is what we can then parent to the camera. So now we have a vert here. So let's take this plane and let's take our camera and do a Control P. Well, select the camera first and then the plane, and do a Control P, and parent by vertex. And now if we play with the geometry, we see the things are not moving. And the reason is because we still have, if we go into edit mode, we have all these points here that are confusing our setup. So we can do an M, merge at center. Now we have only one point. So let's take it out from here and check the camera, do Alt P, clear parent, and then select again camera and then the setup, Control P, vertex. And now we have a setup that it's working. The camera is following our skateboard, and then if we do rotation, let's say Control Z, let's do Alt P first, clear the parent, and RZ, switch the camera towards RZ minus 90, or Z, look through the camera, GZZ, let's get a little bit closer, something like this, and taking out the camera view and do again a Control P and parent, and now we have the setup following this this point of ours. Yeah, I think I accidentally moved the point with this having both of them selected. Alt G, Control P, Alt P, clear the parent, and Alt P, clear the parent, Alt P, clear the parent. Okay, so now we have the point that we care about. Alt G, Alt R. Okay, now things are back to normal because I kind of made that mistake. So now we can again select everything, Alt P, Control P, and by vertex. And now things will follow nicely with the camera. That was something else that I wanted to show you. And at the end, I want to show you the finished clean setup so you can take screenshots and everything. So this is it, the finished setup. If you want to see the materials, check out the link in the description for the material video. For this setup, let's check out the geometry node 3. We have the slope that we created, and the pillar at one end and the slope end at the other end. And when we combine the elements, of course, we get everything to have a material. And for the skateboard, we created the plate here, and this is the wheel support, and that when we duplicated the wheel here, again, materials for everything. And then we created the wheel here and instanced it, the entire setup to get 2 rows of wheels. We combined the element, position it, and then we did the animation here. This is the animation. We sync to the slope, the rotation, and the position we took from this slope that we created. And for the animation, I exposed the length and the speed that go into this setup here. So looking here, we have this animation length and the speed. We can make things go faster or slower by playing with these values here. And in order to parent the camera with the entire setup, we we took the geometry that we created, we got the instances from it, then we turn it into a points, and we delete everything that was static. Basically had the origin at 0. And then we were left with the point to follow, and we parented the cameras to it, like I showed you earlier. For the ground, we have a simple plane with nothing special on it. And for the wall, again, a simple plane with nothing special on it, just the materials. So this is it for this project. It was a lengthy video, but we covered a lot of stuff. Hope I managed to present things clearly. Please let me know in the comments what you think it could be improved in this video. So again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you find this information useful, and until the next video, have a nice day and happy blending.